Oh, my beautiful film club people, what's happening? It's me again, Carson. Welcome back. Glad you're here with us. Me and my buddy Groot are sitting here. It's a little later than I usually film these, so, the lighting is different, but God, it's good to be back. We watched The Illusionist this week, which was so good. Not to be confused with the Edward Norton film, The Illusionist, which is the film everyone seemed to think we were watching this week, but it was not. We were watching 2010's The Illusionist, which is an animated film by, I have it written down, Sylvain Chomet. He's awesome. Pardon me. I will say, if you have not seen The Triplets of Bellville before, that was an animated film that this guy made before The Illusionist that was also nominated for Best Animated Film at the Oscars. This film was nominated for Best Animated Film at the Oscars. And I will say, ever since I saw Triplets of Bellville, I've been in love with Sylvain Chomet. And when this film came out, I really wanted to see it. And I don't know why I never did. I don't know why, but somehow I made it this long without ever watching it. So, 10 years later, got a chance to check it out. And it is so good. Man, it's kind of heartbreaking. So look out. I'm going to get into some spoilers in a little bit, but for now, feel free to hang out. I'm not going to ruin anything. You're okay. I will say that this film is a particularly sweet gem because it is from an unproduced Jacques Tati script. If you are unfamiliar with him, we watched a film of his in this club a while back. We watched Mon Oncle, My Uncle, which is a film that he made in the 50s. It, I believe, won Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars and is a classic in its own right. And it features his most famous character, Monsieur Hulot, who, if you haven't seen Monsieur Hulot's Holiday or Mon Oncle or Playtime, you must find these films and watch them because he's very reminiscent of like a Charlie Chaplin, a Mr. Bean. He's like a silent-ish comedian who wrote and directed and starred in his own films. So he's an icon in France. He's one of the most beloved filmmakers and comic geniuses of all time. His character, Monsieur Hulot, is very, how do you say this? He's all about manners. So I don't know what the correct, there's a word for that, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. But he's just an awkward sort of bumbling Mr. Magoo sort of guy. If you've seen him, you know what I'm talking about. But what's cool about this film is since it was an unproduced Jacques Tati script, our main character is animated to look like him. It looks like Jacques Tati's on the screen. So if you watch any of his films and then you watch The Illusionist, you'll really see how much of his spirit wound up in the paint of this film. And there's even a great moment towards the end, which this is not really a spoiler, so you're still okay, where he kind of runs into a movie theater and Mon Oncle is on screen. And we do see Jacques Tati in real life or in Technicolor or whatever on the screen, and our cartoon version of him is looking up at the screen and he runs out, and it's like this really cute little homage moment to just kind of bring it all back to why we're here. So you must go watch some Jacques Tati if you haven't. You must go see Triplets of Belleville if you haven't. And then we wind up right here at The Illusionist, which I guess in the original screenplay that was going to be a live action film, it took place in Czechoslovakia. And I didn't get to the bottom of why they changed it to Edinburgh, Scotland. But boy, did Edinburgh look beautiful in this cartoon. It was geographically perfect. If you were to look at pictures of Edinburgh and then you were to look at this film, it's a real, quite touching and beautiful love letter to the city. But he is an illusionist, a magician, and he is kind of aging out of entertainment, as it were. It's the late 50s in Europe. And so there's this great scene towards the beginning where he's, on the bill to go do his magic act, but there's a rock and roll band up before him. And so what we get to see kind of early in the film is how the youth are gravitating towards rock and roll and getting a little further and further away from things that our magician does. Of course, he winds up making this friendship with this girl who believes in magic and thinks that the magic that he's doing is 100% real. And so then when he winds up on a boat to Scotland and she has kind of, oh no, he meets her in Scotland, but she winds up going to Edinburgh with him. And then we see this girl kind of experiencing the world uh, through and with him, while also just kind of thinking that all the magic he's doing is absolutely real. And it's really kind of heartbreaking to watch, because it's made clear to us pretty early on that he's just a really good guy who's doing these illusions and keeping the magic alive, like any good magician should do. And we watch him kind of deal with throughout the film, like tricking this girl, and he knows that she believes it, and we kind of watch him try to get her to understand. I am going to start getting into spoiler territory, so if you haven't watched the film yet, you can watch it by itself, but I do recommend watching those other things first, just to give yourself a flavor of really why this film is special. But yeah, when we wind up in Edinburgh and we're living in like a motel of some kind, there's an acrobat, triplets of brothers, I guess, that are in the house. There's a ventriloquist who only talks with the dummy. There's a really sad clown character. Oh man, he broke my heart. But this girl, right? She doesn't speak the language, so she's like having trouble herself dealing with people, but she's so kind, and she's slowly getting gifts from him and things. And yeah, I don't want to get too into it, but like, man, it was so weird how it's definitely more of a melancholic version of a Jacques Tati films. The three of his films that I have watched are all quite light. This one has a bit of a darker sheen to it, which is only because it's kind of more real, which is so fun to explore in animation. I don't think that we, as audience, give animators enough leeway to make adult animation. No, I don't mean porn animation, sickos. I mean movies that are meant to be for adults to enjoy that happen to be animated. One that comes to mind that was so good is Anomalisa, Charlie Kaufman's stop motion film. That absolutely could have been a live action film, but it's exponentially more creative through the form of animation. And this film was going to be a live action film, maybe once upon a time, and setting it in this real way. And also Sylvain Chomet adapting the screenplay. And so I don't know what the original Jacques Tati script looked and sounded, felt like, but this one does kind of leave us with the burden of reality a little bit. I'm just going to jump straight to the end. So if you are sticking around and you want this spoiler, I'm just going to go for it. He does kind of like run out of money, because he's not doing magic. He's buying her all the things that he's making appear out of nowhere. Her new shoes, her new dress, her new coat, food. She thinks that like, dude, just magic me a ticket, bro. Get me on this train. And he's like, oh shit. So that's kind of something that he's dealing with. But towards the end, she's like meeting a young man. She's kind of getting her life together and coming into her own, while he is kind of packing up and saying goodbye to his way of life that is certainly dying. And man, there's this epically sad portion of the film where she has made this giant pot of stew. And there's this wonderfully comic moment where, being a magician, he has a pet rabbit. And there's a moment where he is looking for the rabbit because he's convinced that she killed it and put it in this stew. And it's funny. But she, being the wonderful caregiving Wendy of Neverland that she is, before they can sit down and eat, and she keeps pouring bowls and bringing it to other people. So she brings the ventriloquist a bowl, and she brings the clown a bowl. It's probably the hardest scene in the film, because we've already witnessed this clown drinking alone, being alone. There's a pretty funny bit where he's trying to wash his face, but we see him drunk in the street getting beat up by children. And the moment before she's bringing him the stew, he is about to hang himself in the motel. And it rips your heart out, but it's so beautifully timed. He's about to step off the chair and she knocks on the door with the stew, and then we cut back up to him just slurping it down. And if it wasn't for her, we would have lost another clown. And so I'm getting emotional right now. And if you haven't watched the movie and you're getting emotional listening to this, it's a very touching story and a very beautifully executed animated film. Of course, it was nominated for every animated award under the sun. Like, if you go on IMDb and look at the awards for it, it's just like every award that was available that year was nominated, but it lost because I think, hi hummingbird, you can't see it, but there's a hummingbird over there. What a cutie. I think Toy Story 3 came out the same year and kind of, you know, took all of its thunder, but that's Hollywood, kid. So yeah, I mean, I was very glad to watch. This was our first animated film in the film club, and boy, was I glad that it was this one. There's been a couple before that I've wanted to pick for us, but I felt like this week it was just a good idea to watch just a silent kind of send up to a genius of French film and of cinematic comedy, and one of the great younger animators working today. So yeah, I mean, that ending, man, just so you know, God, if you did watch it, you know that when he finally says goodbye to her, it's just with a note that says magicians aren't real. And it just rips your fucking heart out. But man, oh man. Sorry if I just spoiled the ending for you. We talked about spoilers quite a bit. But yeah, it was such a touching thing. So I'm really glad I finally got a chance to watch it. I hope you enjoyed watching it, even though it was kind of a sad one. I hope the journey was worth it for you. Like always, you know, go ahead and like and comment on this video. Hit us with a subscribe so you can always keep in touch when we got a new video up. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Filmstruck Film Club. So until then, Groot and I are going to go inside and maybe we'll make some cocoa. It's getting kind of chilly, even though we're in California and it's wonderful out here. It's just starting to feel autumnal, baby. We want it. Don't we want it? We'll have a new pick for you coming tomorrow. So go on to Instagram, Facebook, and you'll see our new picks. But take care of yourselves. Much love. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And